Thank you so much for being here. Our topic of the day is multilingual benefits in business, and we appreciate your time. We look forward to engaging with you in our discussion. And Nina is a fabulous teacher who is also with Cricket eLearning. She'll be part of the discussion today to help you see all of the great benefits there are to being multilingual, especially in business. We do see that we have a variety of people joining us from different professions and backgrounds. So feel free to type away in the chat to introduce yourself. And as we're going through different segments of today's webinar, it's always wonderful to hear your perspective and experiences. So that chat is there for you to talk with us. We'll be referencing it often, and we look forward to seeing what type of experiences you've had with different languages. We're going to move on to talk about the objectives of today's webinar. We are going to explore the benefits of multilingualism, especially in the rapidly expanding global workforce that we see today. We're going to talk about the use and the promotion of languages and language varieties within our working environments, and the key to employee engagement as well by making connections with diverse client communities, and how you can expand your network and make yourself more marketable in future job opportunities by leveraging language. I am one of your hosts today. My name is Jenny Pierpont. I am a customer engagement and teacher operations manager with Cricket eLearning, where we offer 11 different languages at a global scale for people just like you. Many of our customers are working in various workforces such as law, medical, education, retail, entertainment, and more. We also have a lot of teachers and actual students themselves, school-age students who are engaging with us. So we're excited to talk with you today about how not only can you personally benefit from multilingualism in business and corporations, but how you can even start this conversation early with children and get them excited for their future opportunities with learning different languages. Also, we have Nina here today. So Nina, I'm excited to talk with you. Can you share a little bit with us about where you were born and raised before coming to the United States?
Of course. So hello, Jenny. Hello, everybody. I'm actually one of those kids who encounter different language very early in their lives. So I was born in Italy, and my accent still, it's still there. But I was lucky enough to attend European school and to start learning English when I was 6 and starting to learn Spanish when I was 12. So that's why I define myself as a multilingual because, I have 3 languages at least under my belt. And during my, adult life, I started to learn more languages, including Hebrew. And it's a life passion of mine. So I was born in Italy, and the fact that I was trained in the school where I could, learn English since I was 6 allowed me to study in the UK and Canada and eventually to find a job in the USA. I am cricket media teacher. I teach Italian at Cricket Media, but I am also, and mainly I would say, a researcher and an anthropologist, and I teach actually at Harvard University. This is where I landed eventually.
We'd
So
love to hear more about what you do as an anthropologist and a researcher, Nina. Can you tell us how being bilingual and multilingual with the variety of languages you've studied, how has that helped you out with these different professions that you've explored?
So sometimes when one approaches the study of a languages, a new language, thinks about grammar and vocabulary, and obviously being able to communicate with people who do not speak your own language. And this is undoubtedly is part of the, process and the reasons why someone engages with learning a language. But what I found is that learning a language is more than grammar and vocabulary. It actually taught me how to engage with people, how to read contexts, right? How to feel emotions sometimes that my language, native language, did not actually have words to define. And it was a process of expansion that allowed me to really learn how to understand people and how to look at cues that if I only spoke Italian, I would not have been, would not have learned to look at. And I think I eventually became an anthropologist because of that, because of this sort of soft social skills that as a language learner I cultivated.
And with your varieties of experiences, has that led way to you having different opportunities compared to some of your colleagues, especially with your research? Have you been able to research in Italian? And how has that improved your team's engagement when you're doing these research projects for the Ivy League institution that you also work for?
Of course, of course. I eventually started my field work. Anthropologists study people, basically, in the contemporary world. At least is what I do. And so have to find data through ethnographic field works, which are long stays, more than a 1 year long stays in places of the world that are not often the places you live in. And so I have two places. One is Arizona, where I do my field work, and that's why I'm in Arizona today. And the other one is Southern Italy. And of course, I cannot speak English in Southern Italy. And I cannot speak only Italian in Southern Italy, actually, because I had to learn the dialect of the place in order for me to be able to work with people, ask questions, and learn how it is to live in that part of the world. So definitely, um, as a language learner and as an early language learner, of course, I could master some of these languages, but also the process of language learning other languages, like the dialect, sped up, right? Allowed me really to be able to be more flexible in how I approach different languages, and therefore being able to communicate in many contexts. Yes, so the fact of knowing more than one language is something that allowed me to be an anthropologist and eventually to be able to to do research and teach in one of the best universities, at least of this country.
Absolutely. And we love that you have the different working titles of being an anthropologist, a researcher, a teacher. And one of the words that you do use to describe yourself is a student. And I think that that is equally important to everything else you do. As a student and a language learner yourself, can you share a little bit about the goals that you're currently working towards?
Yes, currently, actually, I am taking classes in Wikimedia to, being able to use my Spanish more because I don't want to lose it. And actually, I have to tell you that I resumed my Spanish after 30 years of not speaking Spanish. And at the first meeting of my wonderful Christine, my Spanish teacher at Creek Media, my Spanish was there. I mean, I did not lose it. It's a wonderful experience because sometimes, first of all, being in the position of being a student, I think it's a very, very exciting one because allows you to go out of your comfort zone, right? And think differently about, how to communicate, how to think about yourself. And you discover often things about yourself, like me, about myself, that I didn't know were there. And so that's why I define myself as a early language learner, but as a student, for all my life, because I don't want to stop learning language. I don't want to stop learning things about myself. And that's why I think sometimes people think about language learning as as an objective, like, as fluency, as the objective, right? And as soon as you can get there, the better it is. But actually, I think that the journey of learning a language and being in that journey is actually what delivers to me the most satisfaction. You're gonna get there, you're gonna get to communicate, but the um, everyday interaction with myself that I have as a language learner, I think are the most precious, at least to me, experiences of being in the language learning journey.
That's so wonderful, Nina. It makes me feel so excited and empowered about wanting to continue my personal Spanish language learning as well. I am really excited for us to also learn more about the attendees who are here joining us in the webinar today. So if you wouldn't mind, attendees, dropping in the chat to share what you do, what type of career do you have or job do you have? If you're currently looking for work, what type of workplace are you interested in? Are you doing freelance work? Do you have hobbies, volunteer work, etc.? Anything that you would like to share with us, we would love to make connections about how being bilingual and multilingual could support you in your different areas of work as well.
And also, if I can add something, Jenny, if you do have questions for us, we're very happy to, answer your questions. And, if you're curious about some aspects of Jenny's experience, of my experience, we're very happy to share.
Absolutely. I know while we're waiting for some of our participants to drop things in the chat, I will share myself. Before I became a customer engagement and teacher operations manager with Cricket eLearning, I was a teacher myself for students grades 1 through 4. And at the time, I had taken Spanish up into the level 2, which is the high beginner level. And I did find that I had a lot of students who spoke Spanish primarily at home. So if I could have gone back in time, I would have loved to have taken the opportunity to reach out to the principal of the school and express my interest in taking Spanish lessons to better support those students and to have more meaningful conversations with the parents of those students. Just my perspective of a background in education, I know that that's something I would have looked for. That would have helped me. I do
Wonderful. And if I
see.
can add something, sorry.
Oh, I was just opening up the chat here. It does look like our chat is allowing people to submit questions, but not chat in real time. So feel free to put your statements about where you come from within the question option, and we can share those out loud with the other attendees.
Wonderful. Yes, what I wanted to add that as a mother, my son is 15 and we live in the US. And my husband and I are Italian. So Benji, my son, speaks Italian, and now he studies Mandarin. He has been studying Mandarin for 4 years and Spanish for 3. And every friend of his is puzzled by this choice of, adding more and more languages in his academic curriculum when only one actually, at least in Massachusetts where I live, is required. But I think that people can catch up with math, that the lifelong benefits of learning many languages when you are young has been proven. And it's a really opportunity that I think we should not overlook. Obviously, there's no right age to start to learn a language, but we all know it's much faster when you are younger. Um, Maybe less joyous and somehow because it goes through school often, right? So I think definitely having been in the place of a young child learning a language and an adult studying a language, there are both pro and cons, right? But they're both wonderful experiences.
Well, I love that you bring up the pros and cons of learning languages, and I do want to jump on that. And when we talk about today's job market and how competitive a lot of the positions are, being bilingual is such a great opportunity for a potential candidate to make themselves stand out amongst the other candidates who are applying, not for the job opportunity for itself, but if you were to obtain that job, it does help you connect with others across the globe who are also working within your company. Many companies are now international and they do have employees based out of the United States, based out of Japan, based out of China, based out of Australia. And there are so many different people who are interacting with one another. And that could be a way to help support the working relationships you build and the connections that you build with your fellow employees, not even to mention the customers you would engage with if you have the opportunity to build another language into your repertoire. There's also special projects that you can obtain from being able to engage with others in another language and support those projects within your team or at large for your company, especially for companies that are trying to reach a new market and that market may speak a different language primarily. You can help leverage your language to help support the material and content that your business may need to reach that new market of people, making you stand out above your peers. And then we also want to talk about remote work opportunities. That's a big thing that there's a lot of people interested in obtaining remote work openings. And many times these remote positions have the opportunity for those to engage with people at a global scale. And again, having that ability to connect with somebody in another language is going to support you in obtaining that position in comparison to other candidates. And then, of course, the other two are just the ability to provide customer service in different modes and promotion opportunities, especially if you are working in a business that is expanding at a global scale. I know that these are some things that Nina herself has experienced in her different roles, from being an anthropologist to a researcher to a teacher. Can you tell us, Nina, what are some of the benefits you have personally experienced that are related to the ones that we just covered?
Yes, wonderful. Yes, as I said before, learning a language is not always learning, and not only learning only the grammar and the vocabulary. There are cultural aspects that are involved in learning a language. Often not the first thing you think about when you embark on this journey of learning a language, but the cultural sensitivity that relating to different persons, of being the one who as a learner is in a position of not knowing enough, allowed me really to cultivate lots of soft skills and personal skills that allow me to make less mistakes in social interactions, even with people who come from different countries of you know whose language maybe I don't know, but allow me to have a sort of feel, a sixth sense, a sensitivity in how to make less mistakes, to understand better, to not assume things without communicating, proving, connecting. And after all, we want to learn language to be able to connect and to have this conversation, a connection become smoother and easier. To me, of course, I chose eventually to be an academic, and I chose eventually to be an anthropologist. So my work unfolds in two different contexts: in a real life one, right, with people in different countries, but also in the ivory tower of Ivy League institutions. But over there, I meet lots of students. And as you, Jenny, the fact that I was trained in different languages and I went through the um, the journey of learning a language allow me to definitely be a better teacher and definitely tailor my teaching on the individual needs of my students. And this is something that you don't learn at school. You don't learn necessarily when you are trained in higher education, but it's something that comes really from your, being with your head, body, with your whole person interaction with people. And I think learning a language is something that allows us to be in that place.
Excellent. And I would really like to hone in, especially on your ability to leverage Italian in the line of work that you're currently doing. When you do research projects for your institution, are you able to publish content in both English and in Italian for your organizations?
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, of course, being bilingual, I can use them interchangeably, both of my research and for the outputs of my research. For the research itself, I can read in different languages. And I think we should touch on something that some of my skeptical students sometimes tell me, hey, but we have AI now, we have good translators, machine translator like DeepL or DeepL. Why should I learn a language? But this comes to a certain point. They might, again, machine translation can get us to a certain point, and definitely something very useful if we want to communicate in other languages. But that's not the main point, I think, of learning a language. It's not just getting that. And so what I really found in my particular experience is that it's what happens around the learning of a language that makes a difference. And this is something that I see every day on the field when I do ethnography, when I talk to people. Every day when I teach my students, and when I have meeting online, and when I do presentation, and when I do lectures, and um, I often find persons that are that allow me, let's say, that allow me to cultivate this, and I think it's a great privilege that I have.
That's wonderful. And I know that you and I were making some connections about how learning different languages could really support somebody in the field of education. And that kind of led us to the conversation of the benefits to young children starting their academic learning journeys of different languages. Can you also highlight what the advantage is for adults to start learning different languages, even if it's a language they've never explored previously in their life?
Absolutely. First of all, we have a little video link that we'll share with you, and not probably have time to show today, but if you want to see it, that's a good starting point for this conversation. So actually, there are studies that say that basically learning a language makes you smarter. Why is it so? Because your brain, to a certain point, um, works differently in different languages. So knowing more than one allows your brain to multiply the pathways and the ways it looks at things, and allows you to see more dimension, more perspective, and you won't be able to see the world in the same way, but also, honor the complexity, but also the multifaceted aspects that what's around us provokes in us. There are some also studies which I'm less familiar with because they're less within the scope of anthropology, that also say that it appears that being bilingual has a sort of protective, adds a protective dimension to the Alzheimer's disease, for example, and other type of dementia situations. And so definitely your brain is a kind of gym for your brain, let's say. And if we are very concerned about, of course, having our body strong and flexible, and as we age, learning a language is a good way to do so for our brains. And this is why I keep trying to learn new languages out of my comfort zone again.
Thank you, Nina. It has been such a delight to hear about all of your personal experiences that you've had being bilingual, being a student who's currently still learning more languages so you can grow in your ability to speak with others in other languages beyond just English and Italian. We love that you were able to share the benefits that you've seen firsthand leveraging your language in various workplaces, and the way that the various benefits that we've listed for learning different languages have also applied to you in your personal life. We absolutely love this Facebook link to the video, the TED Talk that Nina's discussing, and we've put it inside the chat. So feel free to view that on your time, as we will not have enough time to watch it live. But we do want to discuss how you can get involved in learning another language and really seeing these benefits firsthand in your workplace. We have attendees here who are joining us from the fields of education, like my own background. We also have different attendees here with a medical background, a law background, I see, retail, entertainment, and these are all students that we're constantly working with within Cricut eLearning on a daily basis. So all of you coming from these different backgrounds and these different experiences that you have, all of you can equally get involved and learn another language. If you're an employer yourself, you likely have employees who have these goals and they want to reach these goals. They want to be included in special projects and have different opportunities. And as a decision maker in your role, you can offer language learning as a benefit to your employees. Or if you are joining us today as an employee who's not at that level to make that decision, we can always support you with how you can use our language learning opportunities and how you can initiate that conversation with the decision maker of your workplace so we can make this be an opportunity for you or your colleagues. Nina, is there anything else that our attendees should consider before we let them go?
I think you were really exhaustive, Jenny. And it was a pleasure having this chat with you and with you all. And yeah, I think we're great.
Thanks everybody for joining us. If you want to follow up with us and share any feedback about the TED Talk video that you watch, you can always reach me at jpierpont@cricutmedia.com. I'll put that in the chat. And if you have any other questions for us, whether it's for me as the customer engagement and teacher operations manager, or for Nina, as we know Nina wears many hats, if you have questions for our team, please feel free to send those to me in email as well. I'll be happy to reply to you and share any additional information. If you're a decision maker looking to propose different language learning opportunities to your employee, we're also able to have those connections with you privately beyond this webinar. So feel free to reach out to us should you want to have a further conversation.
I just want to mention one thing, that possibly what we share in the webinar chat is not showing up, and so we need to share it in the Q&A.
Thank you. Yes, we also have it being shared in the Q&A. We'll list it there, and we can follow up with an email as well for those of you who are interested in that, as we have access to the email list here. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for being here with us today and discussing the different benefits in business with having bilingual or multilingual aspects in your life.
Thanks a lot. Bye.